Okay, so the NPC is the poison puppet, and its general attributes, the name is poison puppet, its behavior is patrolling, it's an enemy construct, its damage is on touch and timed, and its locations would be dungeons or castles or anything else man-made. For the attributes, its speed is default at 0.5, axis is default at X, damage is fatal over 3 seconds upon touch, and it cannot be killed, so it does not have a health number. The puppet moves constantly and can damage the player if touched, as I said. Can be used for protecting areas, protecting treasures, evasion practice, shooting practice, and strategy. Like I said earlier, it could be in anything man-made that needs protection. The event trigger is collision, because the damage does it on touch, on contact with the player. As such, it interacts with the player, and its behaviors are patrolling and damaging. And the full description is the poison puppet is a wooden effigy animated through magic and made capable of harm through that same power. It patrols the path set for it by its creator again and again, endlessly protecting whatever is past it. It harms the player on touch with poison from its enchanted wood, killing them over time, and cannot be defeated, so it is best to try and avoid it rather than kill it. And this is the concept art. Now, elaborating on that, the more technical description is the poison puppet is a wooden effigy animated in poison through magic. It's a construct and enemy, and patrols the path set for it even if the player gets in the way. It kills the player after a few seconds with poison damage and cannot be killed, so it must be avoided rather than targeted. And for the Trello checklist, I got the NPC moves on one axis. The axis is modifiable in the inspector. The NPC patrols a set path. It does not diverge from said path. The speed is modifiable in the inspector. The player cannot alter or stop the NPC. Unique model is used instead of a Unity primitive. The NPC consistently detects collision. The player is damaged upon collision, and the damage is on a timer to kill the player after 3 seconds. And with all the forms done, I can show you how it's actually implemented in the game. So first off, it's a prefab now. It's the puppet NPC with all the respective components of the model. And it only has one script. It's the patrol script, but that handles both its movement and its damage. And here's what it looks like in play. It moves along the x-axis on a set position, and even if the player runs into it or gets into its way, it won't stop. And upon touching it, after 3 seconds, the player is removed and is killed. If the player tries to get past it, they can. So that's the recommended strategy for actual gameplay. And getting into the code on how it works and why, part of this is credit for the code for the vectors with moving it properly and making it so the player can't interrupt it goes to show on the Unity Answers forums. Its vectors are set so that it can be modified in the inspector, which is why they're public. So if you wanted it to move on the y-axis or the z-axis, you could, if you modified it. You can also modify the float speed so that it can go faster or slower, in which case I made it go slower. I made it at 0.5 instead of 1 because 1 was a little too quick. At the beginning of the function, its default position is set, and that just is so the vectors know which way to move it and when to make it change direction, so it doesn't just go one way indefinitely. Update tracks the same thing, and then on collision enter is where it handles damage. If it detects the game object with the tag player, which is the test player in the playground scene has that tag, it will destroy it after 3 seconds. And that's just about everything.